Huh, where am I? Oh, I'm in my new set. Welcome to the three-part finale of my third annual Halloween special. First off, right before I get on to the review, I wanted to apologize for not really doing too much videos for my Halloween special. I've been meaning to, but it's just a lot of stuff has been going on in my life. Plus, I had to get a new shelf, which I am happy about. It's just I definitely needed an upgrade. So, plus I have a lot more space, so that I am for sure happy about. But now that I got that out of the way, I figure I would talk about Friday the 13th. Now, when it comes to the Friday the 13th movies, a little bit about my history with these movies. At first, the first movie in the franchise that I watched was actually Part 6, Jason Lives, and it actually got me into loving the franchise, and Part 6 is still my favorite in the franchise. I think I remember watching each of them on, I think it was on Stars, and I remember there was like a few that I rented from Blockbuster. I know I rented at least the first and second one. Those I remember renting at Blockbuster, but all the others I remember watching on Stars. So that's as far as my memory goes watching those movies. Some of them I love, even the crappier ones I liked as a kid. But as I got older, like some of them, I mean, there are some that I don't like. Five I hate the most. Um, Seven I don't really mind. I mean, I enjoy it for all the wrong reasons. And let's see, part eight, Jason Takes Manhattan. I mean, I think is the most boring one, but at least it had a few decent kills. Jason Goes to Hell was a huge mess. Jason X. What do I have to say? It's in space. I'm just like, Jesus Christ, that is ridiculous. But it does have a good kill. The liquid nitrogen kill. That was the good. That was a good one. And Freddy versus Jason. I mean, it's pretty dumb, but it's an awesome kind of dumb. I mean, I love the big fight between Freddy and Jason at the end. It's just like everything I bet a horror fan would want to see. I mean, just these two horror icons just kicking each other's asses. It's just like that's what we wanted to see. I mean, if the whole movie was like that, this would be an A+ movie. It would be the greatest thing ever made. It's just like, yes, I wanted more of that, and it's unfortunate that they didn't even bother to make a sequel, but I mean, I can understand why. I mean, hell, they even wanted to do a Freddy versus Jason versus Ash, which I would be happy to see because Freddy and Jason fighting Ash Williams is just. I would pay good money to see that. And we also got the remake of which I remember seeing in theaters. I was like 11 when I first saw it in theaters, and I was like, it's not too bad. But I saw it once again on DVD and also on Blu-ray, and I was like, this movie is trash. It's basically porn with Jason. Um, but as for the original, I kind of have some respect for it in a way. But however, when it comes to the original Friday the 13th, it does. I mean, this was very clear that this was a way to rip off Halloween's success because Halloween in 1978 was a full blown classic. I mean, it kick started the slasher genre, even though technically, if you really truly think about it, all the way back in 1960, Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho basically helped create the slasher genre. Sure, there have been like other films like before Halloween. I mean, like I said, I mentioned Psycho, and of course there was Texas Chainsaw Massacre. but Halloween really boosted the slasher genre in such a huge way, and Friday the 13th was, I mean, it was clear that Paramount was wanting to cash in on that film's success, and it's just like, you know what, we're just gonna have a killer, and we'll just put him in a summer camp and just have him kill horny teens, because there is that big cliche, because I mean, you have a killer and there's a bunch of horny teens having sex, and they're often the ones that end up getting killed first, and it's kind of a cliche that still goes on in horror movies even to this day. And if you watch Scream, I mean, Randy mentions 3 rules in order to survive a horror movie. Number 1, you can never have sex. 2, never drink or do drugs. And 3, never under any circumstances say, "I'll be right back," because you won't be back, because more than likely you end up dead. So I'm pretty sure anybody who is watching this video has seen Scream. And if you have not seen Scream, I highly recommend you do so. It's a superb film. Plus, it was directed by Wes Craven. As for the original Friday the 13th, one thing that Scream mentions, spoilers for Friday the 13th, is that the killer in this film isn't exactly Jason Voorhees, even though in most of the series he is the main killer. I mean, well, in fact, in the original film, it was his mother, Pamela Voorhees, and Jason didn't appear as the killer until the sequel, which is what Ghostface pointed out in the beginning of Scream. "Well, then you should know Mrs. Voorhees was the original killer, Jason's mother. Jason didn't show up until the sequel." God damn it, I love Scream. So the film starts off in 1958, and it utilizes that era well. I mean, at first, you have a bunch of campers. You have one playing a guitar, singing the song, and then once they're done with the song, you have one couple going into a barn, about to have sex, and then eventually they end up getting killed. Although the first kill, I got to admit, I mean, some of the kills, some of them work in some areas, some of them don't. Some of them are off screen, but it does have some tension to it. That's one of the few positives I can give this movie. Though there is one aspect of the movie that I think is truly awful, and it's the supporting characters. Also, there is one thing that I would definitely want to mention if anybody has not been fortunate to see this film. This was actually one of the first few movies to have Kevin Bacon star in an acting role, and it's just like, I never remember this at first when I first watched it as a kid, because I wasn't really too familiar with Kevin Bacon at that time. I was like 11 when I first watched these films, and it wasn't really until I watched Tremors on AMC that I kind of became familiar with Kevin Bacon, and I was like, and then I would watch the original Friday the 13th years later. I was like, holy shit, Kevin Bacon's in this movie. So yeah, yeah, I think he has the best death in this film. Tom Savini provided the makeup and most of the effects for the film, and for the most part, the effects, they still hold up to this day. And I'm kind of surprised for a film with such a low budget. I mean, it was. I'm surprised that it actually holds up. There are some bits of exposition about Camp Crystal Lake throughout a bit of the film. It's mostly explained through some of the town folk. We have Crazy Ralph, who is one of the best characters in the first 2 movies. At first, whenever we have like a new counselor about to go to Camp Crystal Lake, he does his best to try to warn people to stay away from Camp Crystal Lake because he goes, if you go there, you'll never come back again. It's got a death curse. and um and we see one girl about to be taken to Crystal Lake by this truck driver, and he explains that the two counselors that were killed in 58 and a boy drowning in 57, who was Jason. Then there was a bunch of fires, and in 62, when they were going to open up, the water was poisoned. So there was obviously a whole lot of trouble surrounding Crystal Lake, and it kind of utilizes that this place does have a death curse, even though there's not really much. I mean, there's no supernatural presence in this camp. It's obviously a killer just trying to do its best to keep this camp permanently closed, because obviously there is some spoilers that I would have to explain. So yeah, as for some of the kills, some of them work, some of them don't. Some of them happen off screen, and when they show up on screen, they still work in some areas. So that's one of the few positives that I'll get the movie. There are some characters, some of the supporting characters, which are, some of them are forgettable, and there's some that you expect will get killed, well, of course, mostly everybody who ends up in the camp is dead, except for Alice. And she, for the most part, she's good. Except there are some decisions in the end which I find very questionable, and I'll get to that in a minute. So Adrienne King, who plays Alice, I don't really mind her performance. It's good for the most part. Though, some of her decisions in the final act, I find a bit questionable. And once she discovers all the dead bodies, especially of her friend Bill, having his body pinned by different arrows. One in his eyes, some on his chest, and even to his balls. Just Jesus Christ. And she does her best to she barricades herself in one cabin, and then a body is thrown through a window, and she's freaking out, of course. And then she sees a car passing by, and she goes outside immediately, and she discovers that the driver was Pamela Voorhees, played excellently by Betsy Palmer. Rest in peace. You were great in this film. And at first, she's acting like, it's okay. I'm just wondering what's going on here. I used to work here. And once she goes in the cabin and looks at the dead body, she gives the big exposition scene, and we figure out her motivation and saying, she tells Alice about Jason and how she blames the counselors for his drowning, since they were having sex and they weren't paying any attention to him. So she blamed the counselors for Jason drowning. So she has done her best to try to keep Camp Crystal Lake closed. They decided to reopen the camp. Pamela decides that she's going to kill all the counselors. So yeah, and the final act, it does have its good moments, and there's some questionable moments. One thing is that Alice, she knocks Pamela down at least a few times. Right when Pamela is about to attack Alice, she at first has a knife, and then Alice takes out a fire poker and then knocks her out. And I'm asking myself, why don't you just take the knife and stab her? I mean, before she even has another opportunity to chase you. But instead, Alice just continues to run from cabin to cabin, finds several dead bodies, and then she even tries to go for a gun, which I think is a very smart move. But of course, I mean, the bullets are locked in a drawer. So she knocks Pamela out again, and again doesn't take the opportunity to kill her. It's just like, why don't you take the opportunity to kill this bitch? I mean, she killed all your friends. Just come on. And when she tries to hide in a cabin from Pamela, she knocks her out again with a pan, and again doesn't take the opportunity to kill her because Pamela, she had a machete, and it isn't until she goes to the beach by the lake they had their final confrontation, and after they wrestle for a bit, Alice finally takes the opportunity to. She takes Pamela's machete and decapitates her, and the way that Pamela is just waving her fingers after she's been decapitated, it's pretty dumb. It's just the effect is still pretty good though. I'm not gonna lie. And we get the big holy shit moment in the film. Because we at first think, it's a happy ending. She's made it, and she's gonna live out the rest of her life in peace. But nope. She's sitting on a boat. The cops arrive, and right as she gets the satisfied look on her face, and then Jason comes out of the lake and tracks her down. It's just holy shit. Of course, this was a dream sequence. That's kind of a big cliche thing. That can still bother most people. That I can understand bothering some people. The most annoying use of that cliche was in Jaws: The Revenge. It's just why do you use the dream sequence like that? It's just. Even Gene Siskel pointed that out in his review for Jaws: The Revenge, which I definitely respect. Gene Siskel, Roger Ebert, rest in peace. You two were the best. But so Alice is now in a hospital, and we have this one cop questioning her, and at first she is asking them if they found the boy. He says, "Ma'am, we didn't find any boy in there." Then she's like, "Then he's still there." And of course this started a huge franchise, which has been going on for the past 40 years, and it's still popular even to this day. And it spawns many sequels, a reboot of dozens of comic books, and even a video game. That's how popular this franchise is. Actually, there's 2 video games. There was one in the 80s, which was it was bad, but at least it was fun. And of course, there's the current game, which I have played. You can find gameplay for it on my channel. I'll put a link for my gameplays for that game in the description below. So I have a lot of fun playing that game. I play it with a few of my friends every now and then, just to have some fun with it, because I have a lot of fun playing the Friday the 13th game. So the original film, I mean, it does have its moments. I mean, I like it for what it is. I mean, just a horror film. And also, it's a revenge film. So, I mean, if you view it as a revenge film, and it definitely works in its areas because this technically is a revenge film. You have a vengeful mother who blames dozens, I mean, these counselors for the death of her son. I mean, I mean, they were the cliche horny teens who are just desperate to have sex. They weren't paying attention to Jason when he was drowning. So Pamela blames them for Jason's death. So she goes on a killing spree and decides to kill them all. And that's an interesting concept for a revenge film. And if any of you have done a review for any of these films without even mentioning Harry Manfredi's score, you have failed. That is a good way to make a horror score. I mean, it's one of the best horror scores ever made, in my opinion. I mean, when you think of horror scores, you mostly think of John Carpenter's work on Halloween or Ennio Morricone's score for The Thing or the score for the Nightmare on Elm Street films or Joe LaDuca's score for the Evil Dead movies. So, I mean, as for the Friday the 13th main theme, it's well known even to this day. Even the sound effect. I mean, it's, well, and just in case a lot of people are mostly confused on that sound, it's actually not because I know like a lot of people can, I mean, that kind of mix it with but still that sound is still iconic. And it's a fun horror movie to watch. I mean, sure, the some of the support, most of the supporting characters are forgettable, and some of the kills work, some of them don't. The third act has its issues, but I mean, I enjoy like some of the performances. The score is amazing, and the camera work is also pretty amazing, for my opinion, especially for a film with such a low budget. And I have a lot of respect for that. So definitely check this one out if you are a fan of horror films. I'm gonna give Friday the 13th a B minus. So if you checked out this film, let me know what you think. Let me know in the comment section below. Guys, thank you so much as always for watching. I had a whole lot of fun doing this video, and there's a few more I'll be doing pretty soon. Next up, I'll be doing a review for Sleepaway Camp, and after that, I'll do a video for The Exorcist to finally conclude my Halloween special. And also, since Sean Connery has recently passed away, I'll also be doing a memorial video for him, as well as review several of his movies, including some of his James Bond movies. So I'll definitely look forward to that because Sean Connery has been important to me as a kid. So I definitely can't wait to do that. So thank you so much as always for watching. I'm looking forward to doing more videos really soon. And if you want my thoughts on old or new movies, of course, you know where to find me.